So even though we aren't going to have a full discussion on proportions, some basic equation solving, and some things with graphing, I did want to have something on here just to kind of refresh you if you needed a little refresher on this to feel a little better with that. So without further ado, let's chat a little here about some of these things. So basic equation stuff, just a couple up here at the top to get you thinking about it. If you've got an expression like this, okay, fraction, to get rid of the fraction, we just got to do opposites of what we see. So here, we're dividing by 5. We're going to multiply by 5. And then divide to get to the answer. Do I care if you go to decimal stuff? No, but I'll warn you in advance, I'm going to go to fractions. So just to kind of peek at something like that. If, though, let's compare number 1, let's say, to number 6. Okay? You're like, well, can I do the same thing? Can I just get rid of the fraction? Not the first thing. See, here, I need to isolate my fraction before I do that. Now, is it possible for me to get a pen that works? There we go. Could I go ahead and multiply everything by 5 at the start? I could, but here's why I don't suggest it. If you multiply by 5 at the start, you'd also have to multiply this -4, this -4, by 5 in the 6. And people forget about this -4 and screw it up. So that's why I'd suggest isolating the fraction first, then going into mode here to get that out of there. And solve what's remaining. Okay? And then proportions we like, because proportions we just do the crosses and set them equal. 5x times 3, 15x. 45 times 5, 225. And go ahead and divide that out and get your solution. Okay? So those 3 problems basically will set you up for most all of this entire page. Now, however, there's always got to be an exception to the rule, right? That's just how life seems to work. So I start to look down in the practice area, and I'm like, okay, let's see. Yeah, those look like those. Okay, we're just cross multiply. Oh. We've got something different now working here with the fractions. I'm going to show you a couple of options with these. Either option's going to work, but just to get you a little heads up just in case. So let's look at this first one, and you're like, okay, again, depending on what your teacher was doing and where you came from, you may have been taught with fractions. Well, that's like divide. So I'm just going to multiply each side by 5. So that would be 4x equals 80. Because again, we don't cancel the 4. That's job's just to cancel the denominator. Divide. I get my answer. Some of you will also learn quickly with me. I am the king of the Post-it note if I want more options. I also had the choice on this one, if I'm comfortable with it, of just taking that fraction that's in front and multiplying both sides by the reciprocal. You can punch this into your calculator just like this, or you can always do 16. You multiply by the top and divide by the bottom. Multiply by the numerator, divide by the denominator. So 16 times 5 is 80, divided by 4 is 20, and I get to the exact same thing. So you have options. Now, I'm just going to move this up here, because the other one I want to take on is one of this type. Because now, again, I'm looking at this. I don't want to get rid of that fraction first. That is going to cause a mess. I want to isolate that first. Question that'll come up at this point. Hardy, if I can do these different steps and things in my head, do I have to show plus 12, plus 12? Can I just go to here? That's fine. Okay? I don't want to see you going straight from this to an answer. Because, I mean, then my feelers are going to go up a little bit. But, yeah, if you want to get to here, and again, totally up to you. You could multiply both sides by 7 and divide by 6. Perfectly fine. You could take both sides, multiply. Oh, dear. The pens today. And get your answer that way. Okay? So either of those are going to work. And again, just a basic review, kind of getting you back, getting the strength going, getting you working with some of that stuff. Now, do want to do one last one here on the back. Just to kind of get us a feel for things. Okay, so we're over here on the back on 1B. You're like, okay, proportions, proportions. Ooh. What happens if I run into something like this? One thing's a fraction, just make the other one a fraction. And, oh, this is a biggie. Whenever you see pluses and minuses going on, okay, in parts of your problems, I would suggest to start getting parentheses in, because if you don't, you are going to be that person that says this is 3y minus 8, or this is 3k plus 5, and you're going to forget to distribute. And that's not going to get you the right answer. Add your 24 over, divide by 3. Okay, so I would suggest when you're on a page like this, going through, even if you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to do some of these, Hardy, well, that's okay. Just double check, make sure, get yourself in good shape. And that way, when you get to one like number 10, which is the last one I'm going to do, well, no, I see one more. And again, I'll repeat myself here. It's early. Yes, if you want to, do this in your head and not write this step and just go to this one where you distribute, I'm fine with that. No problems. But here, again, reminder, your D's are not on the same side. You're not just adding them up. You're doing an opposite. So I'm going to actually show that. You can choose which side you want to send them to. And now I would certainly hope that we're capable of getting ourselves out of this without too much fanfare. And working that out. I want to do one more. Down here at the bottom, I got 2 starred problems because they're a little special. Y times y, what is that? Not 2y. Y squared, which means whatever my y value is, if I take it to the second power, if I square it, I get 225. But if I'm not sure what that value is, I need to take the square root of it to cancel the squared, and the square root of 225 is 15. So again, be cautious. Be very, very cautious when you're checking those out. Okay, now, one more thing to play with here today. Okay, graphing lines. Real basics. I'm not going step by step through this. I'm going to have a post on here for a couple of other math websites and things you can look at, but just a reminder on graphing lines real quick. The value in front of m is your slope, rise over run. And the value on the end, your y, your b, I was thinking ahead, is your y-intercept. Again, here's the y-axis. So if you don't have a y-intercept, we assume that's at 0. And if you have a negative slope, if you don't just remember in general, negative slopes go down to the right, positive slopes go up to the right. I always tell people, put the negative on one of the numbers, just not both. So I don't care if you put it on the 2 or the 5, but not both. So we're going to go down 2. We're going to go right 5. And I always like to have at least 3 points on a line. So you also could do up 2 and left 5. And that helps me get my third point. Straight edges are kind of nice because these are lines, not scribbles. And I get set. If I do have a y-intercept, we plot that first. This time, we don't have to worry about the whole negative thing. It's just 1 over 5. So up 1, 1, 2. You're like, Hardy, I can't make a third point. So now what? Well, what's another way I could write this that would keep the final value the same? Isn't it true that negative divided by negative is positive? So I could go down 1 and left 5 and do the same thing. So if you're wondering, hey, on the first quiz, are we going to have to graph lines? Maybe. That's why I'm putting some of this review on here, just to help, just in case. Okay? Well, what if I have a slope and it's not a fraction? Take the polar and put it over 1. Y-intercept. Down 2. Right 1. Uh-oh, I ran out of room. Just switch where the negative is. Up 2 and left 1. Look at that. This early in the year, and I'm already drawing straight lines without a straight edge. That's impressive. Okay, last part. Write the slope-intercept of the equation within each line. Okay, so I need the y-intercept, where it's across the y-axis. Then I need to find another point that's in what I like to call the crosshairs. So like if you notice here, there's a lot of points that are within those. And then I just got to figure out, hey, to get from one point to the next, I go up 1 and I go right 1. And that ends up being my slope. You could write this as 1x minus 2. Heck, you could just write it as x minus 2 because we assume it's there. You could write it as 1 over 1 minus 2. Doesn't bother me a bit when you're trying to do that. Let's see how this works. Now, that doesn't mean that every single time you're going to get points that go directly 1 over 1. So let's play with another one. Okay, so there's a y-intercept of 3, but that's not going through a crosshair. That's not. This one I think is, but let's keep looking and see if we can find another one somewhere. There we go. Okay, directly through both of these. It's got to go through one of those cross points like this, not in a piece of it. And so here I look and I'm like, okay, let's go here to here. So I go up 2 and I go right 3. Y equals mx plus b. Okay? So play with some of those. See how they're going. Okay? You're going to be responsible for them, though, so make sure you're giving that a shot. And we'll see you the next time we try these out.